She walks into the room with a glow on her face, her smile effortlessly disarming the tension around her. People see her and assume she's doing well after all. Someone who smiles that much must be happy, right? What they don't realize is that her smile is not just a sign of joy, it's a shield. Behind that smile is a woman who wakes up every day carrying battles no one else can see. She's mastered the art of looking okay, because she's learned the world doesn't slow down for those who aren't. So she adjusts her crown, straightens her posture, and steps out into the world as if nothing is wrong. But the truth is, behind every smile is a storm of pain she quietly navigates when no one is watching. She has become an expert at hiding her emotions, not because she wants to deceive anyone, but because experience has taught her that vulnerability often comes at a cost. The one time she broke down in front of someone, they called her dramatic. The one time she asked for help, they made her feel like a burden. So now she just smiles. It's easier that way. It keeps people from asking questions she doesn't want to answer, and it allows her to function in a world that doesn't pause for anyone's heartbreak. Her smile has become her survival mechanism. No one sees the moment she closes the door behind her at night, when the silence becomes deafening and her mask slowly fades. The tears she holds back all day finally escape, and the weight she carried in her chest pours out through her sobs. Alone in her room, she doesn't have to pretend. She doesn't have to perform strength. There, she can be real. She can be broken, and she can grieve everything she's lost, everything she's tolerated, and everything she's never said out loud. She cries not because she's weak, but because she's human. She cries because she's been strong for too long, carrying the expectations of a world that always tells her to keep it together. She never allows herself the luxury of rest, softness, or fragility in public. People look up to her, they admire her, they depend on her. But few truly know her. Few ever stop to ask what's going on behind the scenes of her life. And so she continues to give love, time, patience, understanding, while quietly breaking inside, hoping that one day someone might look beyond her smile and see the truth in her eyes. It's heartbreaking how easily we overlook the silent battles of those who seem the strongest. We assume that if someone is functioning, they're fine. We assume that if she's smiling, she must be okay. But we forget that the strongest people often suffer the most, not because they're immune to pain, but because they've been taught to carry it alone. She doesn't share her struggles because she's tired of being misunderstood. She doesn't break down in front of others because she doesn't want pity. She wants peace. And so she goes through life, quietly mending herself after each heartbreak, each disappointment, each betrayal. And yet, there's something profoundly beautiful about her spirit. Even with all the pain she carries, she still chooses kindness. Even with all the emotional weight on her shoulders, she still shows up for others. That smile she wears may be hiding sorrow, but it's also proof of her resilience. It's a testament to her refusal to let pain turn her bitter. She still believes in love and hope and goodness because deep down, she knows that even the most broken hearts can heal, and even the most wounded souls can still shine. We often wait until someone breaks completely before we take their pain seriously. But what if we didn't wait? What if we chose to be more attentive, more compassionate? What if we learned to see beyond the surface, to notice the tired eyes behind the smile, the hesitation in their laugh, the way they quickly change the subject when it gets too personal? The truth is, every woman who silently cries when she's alone doesn't need someone to fix her. She just needs someone to care enough to see her, to really see her. Because when someone finally recognizes her pain and doesn't look away, she no longer feels invisible. And in that moment, something shifts. Healing begins not when the pain ends, but when it's acknowledged. When someone whispers, You don't have to carry this alone anymore. That's when her smile can start to reflect something real again. Not just strength in disguise, but peace. Peace she's longed for all her life. People look at her and admire her strength. They see how she manages a home, a career, a family, and still finds time to show up for others. They praise her for being dependable, for always having it together, for being the strong one. Society celebrates her resilience, her ability to smile through chaos, to hold things together when everything around her is falling apart. But while her strength is admired, her sadness is ignored. No one asks her how she feels when she's alone, lying in bed with a heavy heart and silent tears. Her pain becomes invisible in a world that only wants to see the version of her that serves others. From a young age, she was taught to be strong, maybe not in words, but in expectations. She learned that expressing emotions was a weakness, that her worth was tied to how much she could endure without complaining. So she kept smiling, even when her heart was breaking, even when exhaustion weighed her down, she kept going. She showed up because people depended on her. She smiled because it made others comfortable, and somewhere along the way, she forgot what it felt like to be seen beyond the roles she plays. People often say, "She's so strong, she doesn't need help." But they fail to see that her strength is a mask she wears because she had no choice. She had to be strong when no one else showed up. She had to be the one who held the family together when things were falling apart. She had to silence her own needs to make sure everyone else was okay. And the most painful part, no one noticed her sacrifice. No one asked her what it cost to always be the strong one. Society has this strange way of rewarding silence and resilience in women, but punishing them for expressing real emotion. If she cries, she's dramatic. If she speaks up, she's emotional. So she swallows her pain and pretends it doesn't exist. She jokes in public and breaks in private. And even when she dares to hint at her suffering, people quickly shift the conversation or offer surface-level encouragement. "You'll be fine. Stay positive. You're strong, you'll get through it." But what she really needs is someone to listen, someone to sit with her pain without trying to fix it or brush it off. It becomes OGNIZASSN, because the more people expect her to be strong, the less space she has to be vulnerable. She becomes afraid to show her sadness, scared that if she lets even one tear fall in front of others, everything might unravel. So she waits until she's alone. That's when the mask comes off. That's when the weight she's been carrying all day crushes her chest, and she finally lets herself cry. Not because she wants to, but because she has no other choice. It's the only time she feels safe enough to feel. But here's the thing. Just because she carries it well, doesn't mean it's not heavy. Just because she smiles, doesn't mean she's okay. And just because she's always been strong, doesn't mean she doesn't need support. Her heart breaks just like anyone else's. Her soul gets tired, and no one, no matter how strong, should have to suffer in silence. The truth is, society needs to change the way it sees strong women. Strength isn't the absence of emotion, it's the courage to keep going, even when everything inside you is breaking. And women like her deserve more than admiration. They deserve understanding. They deserve to be seen as human, not as machines designed to serve others. They deserve the same compassion and care they so freely give to everyone else. Sometimes, the strongest women are the ones who cry in the shower, who wipe their tears before walking into a room, who carry everyone's burdens while theirs go unnoticed. But what would happen if we started asking real questions, if we looked past the smile and truly listened? Maybe then she wouldn't have to wait until she's alone to cry. Maybe then she'd feel safe enough to share her truth. Maybe then, the world would finally realize that behind her strength is a soul that longs to be seen, heard, and held. She doesn't speak about her pain, not because she doesn't want to, but because she knows the world isn't really listening. At some point in her life, she tried to open up. She tried to share the heaviness in her heart, the quiet ache that lived inside her every day. But the responses she received made her retreat. People told her to be grateful, to toughen up, to focus on the positive. They gave her advice when all she wanted was someone to listen. So she learned. She learned that silence was easier than being misunderstood. That pretending to be fine was safer than being labeled too emotional. And now, when the pain becomes unbearable, she chooses silence. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, because she knows that the world often only hears what it wants to hear. She laughs at the right moments, speaks softly, nods politely, and carries herself with quiet grace. People compliment her for being calm, poised, and composed. They don't realize that every word she doesn't say is carefully held back. Every emotion she buries is a wound that never quite heals. When she's alone, her silence speaks louder than words ever could. She cries, not just because she's hurting, but because there's no one around who would truly understand if she tried to explain. It's not that she hasn't tried, she has, many times. But when someone's pain makes others uncomfortable, they often minimize it or change the subject. That's what she's experienced over and over. So now she smiles instead. Her silence is her armor. It protects her from judgment, from rejection, from being seen as a burden. But it's also her prison. She wants someone to notice, to ask her how she's really doing, and mean it. She longs for someone to look past the small talk and the polite exchanges and say, "You don't seem okay, talk to me." But that rarely happens. Most people are too caught up in their own lives to notice the flicker of sadness in her eyes. So she suffers quietly, hoping that maybe someday someone will truly see her. The hardest part isn't the sadness, it's the loneliness that comes with it. She could be surrounded by people and still feel like no one understands her. That's the kind of isolation that doesn't come from being physically alone, but emotionally disconnected. She's learned to comfort herself, to wipe her own tears, to talk herself through the darkness, to hold herself together when the weight becomes too much. And still, she wakes up each day and faces the world with a smile. Because no matter how hard it gets, she won't let her pain define her. She doesn't speak about what she's been through, the disappointments, the betrayals, the heartbreaks, because she knows that most people only want the highlight reel. They don't want the truth if it's messy, so she tucks it all away. She creates space in her soul where she stores every unspoken emotion, every unshed tear, every word she wishes she could say out loud. And over time, that space becomes heavy, but she carries it anyway, with grace, with strength, with a kind of courage the world rarely sees or acknowledges. And when she finally breaks down in private, it's not because she's given up, it's because she needs release. Because holding it in for so long starts to hurt more than the pain itself. Her tears aren't a sign of weakness. They are proof that she's been strong for too long. They are proof that even the most composed hearts sometimes need a moment to fall apart. The world needs to understand that silence doesn't always mean someone is okay. That smiles can be masks, and laughter can be a cover for pain. She shouldn't have to scream to be heard. She shouldn't have to fall apart publicly to be taken seriously. Her quiet suffering matters. Her hidden struggles are real. And until we learn to listen without judgment, to hold space without rushing in with solutions, people like her will continue to cry in silence. All she really wants is someone who will sit with her, not to fix her, not to offer cliches, but to simply be there. to make her feel seen in a world that constantly overlooks her. Because sometimes the deepest healing doesn't come from words, it comes from presence, from knowing that even in silence, you are not alone. She's often told she's too emotional, that she needs to toughen up, that crying solves nothing. But what they don't understand is that her pain doesn't make her weak. It makes her deeply human. She feels everything on a level most people try to avoid. She doesn't numb her heart or shut herself off. Instead, she carries her emotions, raw and real, even when they overwhelm her. And that is not weakness. That is strength. It takes courage to let yourself feel in a world that constantly tells you to stay numb, to be indifferent, to move on quickly. She doesn't choose the pain, but she chooses not to run from it either. And that's what makes her powerful in a way few recognize. There's something incredibly beautiful about a woman who still allows herself to cry, even after the world has hardened her. She doesn't cry to get attention, she cries because her soul has been stretched thin. She's given so much of herself, to her family, her partner, her friends, and received so little in return. She's held space for everyone else's pain, but had no one hold space for hers. She's the one who listens when others are hurting. She's the one who shows up when no one else does. But when it's her turn to be vulnerable, the room goes quiet. People look away, or worse, they dismiss it entirely. She doesn't expect the world to rescue her. She knows better than that. But that doesn't mean she doesn't wish someone would stand beside her, just for a moment, and say, "It's okay to feel this way. You don't have to carry it all alone." She doesn't want pity. She wants understanding. She doesn't want someone to solve her problems. She wants someone to hear her, truly hear her, without judgment. But that kind of presence is rare. And so, she continues, strong on the outside, tired on the inside. Even though she hides her tears, they come from a place of love. Love for others, love for the world, love for things that didn't last. Her tears tell stories of the people she held on to for too long, of the dreams that quietly faded, of the promises that were broken without warning. Each tear is a memory, a release, a way of letting go. And while others may see those tears as signs of fragility, they are in fact symbols of deep strength. It takes a resilient soul to keep giving after being hurt. It takes unimaginable courage to remain open in a world that keeps letting you down. The truth is, her ability to feel deeply is not a flaw. It's a gift. It allows her to connect with others in ways that surface-level people never could. It allows her to empathize, to comfort, to uplift. Her pain has given her wisdom. Her sorrow has shaped her heart into something incredibly tender and compassionate. She knows what loneliness feels like, so she makes sure no one else feels that way when she's around. She understands the language of silent suffering because she's lived it, and that understanding becomes her superpower. Still, there are moments when it all becomes too much. When being the strong one feels less like a badge of honor and more like a heavy chain. In those moments, she lets the tears fall not because she's broken, but because she's healing. Crying doesn't make her less, it frees her. It releases the burden she's carried all day while smiling at strangers, handling responsibilities, and pretending she was okay. Behind closed doors, she allows herself to fall apart, not to stay there, but to gather the strength to rise again. That's what most people miss. They think strength is about never breaking, never crying, never feeling. But real strength is being able to face your own pain with honesty. Real strength is walking through the fire with tears in your eyes and still choosing to be kind. Real strength is having the heart to feel everything and the resilience to keep going anyway. So the next time someone sees her smile, they should remember that smile may be genuine, but it was built from the tears she cried when no one was watching. It's not a contradiction. It's her way of showing the world that pain didn't defeat her. It shaped her. And she's still standing. Every day she wakes up, she makes a choice. A choice to keep going, to keep showing up for others, even when her own heart feels like it's running on empty. She doesn't do it because life is easy or because her pain has disappeared. She does it because somewhere inside her, there's still a flicker of hope. A belief that maybe tomorrow will be better. That maybe, even if no one sees her struggle today, someone will eventually understand. So she moves through her day with quiet grace, carrying pain that most wouldn't survive, and still finding a way to be kind, to give love, and to offer light in places that have none. What most people don't realize is that it takes more strength to live with invisible pain than it does to show it. There's a silent endurance in her, an ability to keep functioning when every fiber of her being wants to shut down. She smiles, she helps, she listens, she encourages others to stay strong, to keep the faith, and not once does she let her own burdens spill over. It's not that she doesn't want to let go, it's that she doesn't know if anyone would be there to catch her if she did. So instead of falling apart, she holds herself together, piece by fragile piece, day after day. But beneath that strength is a woman who still dreams, a woman who still imagines a life where she doesn't have to be so guarded, where she can laugh without faking it, where she can cry without hiding, where she can simply be herself, without needing to explain why. She holds on to that vision quietly, like a secret hope, because sometimes it's the only thing that keeps her going. She may cry when she's alone, but she never lets go of the belief that one day, someone will love her deeply enough to see through the mask, to recognize that behind her resilience is a soul that longs to be nurtured, not fixed, just accepted. In public, she is composed and giving, but in private, she has her moments of doubt. She wonders if she'll ever truly be understood. She questions whether the world even values softness anymore, or if it's all just about who can pretend the best. Still, she refuses to become hard. She refuses to let the world turn her into something she's not. She chooses to feel, to care, to stay gentle, even if it costs her peace, even if it means suffering in silence, because she knows the world has enough coldness already. And maybe, just maybe, her tenderness might be the reason someone else chooses to keep going too. Even in her loneliest hours, when the weight feels unbearable and the tears come without warning, she tells herself, just one more day. Not because she's running from her pain, but because she believes in the possibility of change. She knows healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the way she picks herself up every morning. Sometimes it's in the way she writes her thoughts in a notebook, in the way she takes deep breaths when no one's watching, in the way she gives her best to the world even when she feels like she has nothing left. These quiet acts of survival are her victory. These are her unspoken triumphs, and though no one may ever fully understand what she goes through, she knows her story matters. Her pain matters, her heart matters. Every tear she's cried, every night she's spent awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone sees her, it all matters. Because behind the silent suffering is a woman who refuses to give up. A woman who, despite everything, continues to love, to care, to hope. And that is something truly extraordinary. One day, the world may finally look past her smile and see the battles she fought in silence. But until then, she'll keep going, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. Because even in the darkness, she believes in light. Even in her pain, she believes in love. And even when she cries in silence, she carries a strength that no one can take from her.